There's a lot that's different in Doom: The Dark Ages compared to the other two games, and there's plenty of stuff I like about it, as well as some things I don't. But after spending 2 months playing it constantly and making like 20 videos already, I have a pretty good idea of what's really working for me. My favorite thing about Doom: The Dark Ages is the change to the healing resources. I'm not talking about the change from glory kills to executions, though I think that does work well for the new flow. I'm speaking specifically on the varied methods of healing, how much you get, and how much is dependent on actually finding pickups. The way players healed in FPS games went through a dramatic change in the 2000s, where before you mostly relied on pickups, medkits or armor that were either activated on pickup or saved for use later. Once the era of console shooters took off with games like Halo and Call of Duty, as well as the glut of third-person cover shooters that came out, healing became a passive ability. In most cases, you had no way to control your health recovery outside of simply waiting for it to automatically regenerate. Knowing where those life-saving pickups were just wasn't a factor in a lot of games. When Doom 2016 came out, it introduced glory kills, dropping health from enemies through brutal executions. It was the main way to stay alive. Armor was still almost entirely collected with pickups, being of high value, but were mostly found outside of combat spaces. It was a refreshing change to the FPS formula so many had become accustomed to, taking from the active healing mechanics found in games in other genres, and even in Duke Nukem Forever, which came out several years earlier. For Doom Eternal, they also put armor gain directly into the hands of the player, or on their shoulder rather, by introducing the Flame Belch, a rechargeable equipment piece that set enemies on fire, causing them to drip armor shards. Kill them and get a bunch of armor at once. We also had the fully upgraded Meat Hook, which would light an enemy on fire for a 30-point armor bonus on kill. But it wasn't just that, the Ice Bomb had an upgrade that made frozen enemies drop health when damaged, and if you were at max health or max armor, these excess resources could be channeled into Blood Punch charges, giving you more powerful melee attacks to get up close and do big damage. Eternal really pushed the management of resources to the next level, in terms of player accountability and in non-survival uses for them. But something was lost along the way, and that's the classic FPS feeling of collecting resources around the map. In Doom Eternal, a health pack or a chestplate of armor just doesn't really mean that much when you're so capable of restacking through your offensive options. Maybe the first time you play, finding resources in the arena will save you, but once you know how to play, they don't really matter. Now, 5 years later, while Doom: The Dark Ages still has a lot of Eternal's combat-centric resource management, the amount of health and armor you get through combat has been toned down. Around my second or third playthrough, I started to notice just how important pickups are. No matter how good I get at the game, I am constantly running over to grab a medkit or armor during combat. If I see armor in exploration, I want it, because I need to get my levels up for the next fight. If you're good at Doom Eternal, you know that if you're close to death, all you really gotta do is throw down an Ice Bomb and Flame Belch and you're good to go. Run away and find a couple zombies to soften up for glory kills, set them on fire, and it's like you never took damage to begin with. It's fun, I'm not shitting on Eternal, it works great for the game it is, but there's something about the way Dark Ages handles it that makes me really happy. I love the returned importance of pickups, and there are several factors that cause it. The upgraded flail doesn't give nearly as much armor as the Flame Belch in most cases. When fully upgraded, you can get a rush of armor from a large group of fodder, but you don't always have access to them. And if you want to get 30 armor points, you're going to need to spend all 3 strikes on a single heavy. But since it does AoE damage, hitting a group of imps will give 20 to 30 armor per swing. You can combine the flail with the upgraded combat shotgun to ramp up the armor gain. Once you unlock the Ground Fissure Shield rune, upgrade it to give armor each time you parry a projectile. The amount you get depends on how many enemies get hit by it. And of course, anytime you break enemy armor, you are rewarded with armor for yourself. 10 points here, 30 points there. You've got 4 different ways to generate armor, on top of a gun that can be upgraded to drop health, and a shield rune turret that can do the same. You can create different builds that benefit what you want to prioritize, instead of every player using the same tools. I find that to be an interesting remix of the modern Doom formula, a different way to think about things. Enemies in the Dark Ages also appear to hit harder than they did in Eternal, but maybe that's just because there's more coming at you and the death protection rules are a bit different. But it's not just armor. Because of the change to executions, fodder enemies like zombies, soldiers, and those little hairy imps with the fastballs, they are not sources of health the way they used to be. You can't just run over to them and get a glory kill for health. They only drop health if you're really low. Toss the shield and you'll get a flood of HP drops. But outside of that, the only thing you're getting from them is ammo. And armor if you're using the flail or the combat shotgun, which you may not in favor of more powerful options. If you need health, you're either building into health generation with certain tools, or you gotta go in for executions on heavy demons. You gotta get in there and fight for it. Or you gotta navigate the combat space to find those essential pickups. This makes armor and health pickups much more valuable this time around, and I know everyone who plays has felt this. Maybe you haven't consciously realized how different this is from Eternal, but you're regularly going for life-saving pickups. You just weren't doing that before. I think it's a more thoughtful and dynamic resource management system, with more of that old-school FPS spirit. I'm always engaged in the process of keeping myself alive, and it feels less autopilot than Eternal eventually did once I was good at it. What do you guys think? Are you liking the emphasis on valuable pickups to survive? Thanks for watching this video. I know I said I was going to rest this week, but I apparently have a problem.